Oh, hello. How are you today? You caught me in my reading hour here. Have you ever felt like that you would have been in a better place if you just traveled back in time? That life was simpler back in those good old days? Perhaps maybe even you would have fit in better in good old World War II. No! What are you thinking, stupid? Quit having that whole nostalgia goggle vision there. Don't go back in time. It's a really, really bad idea. But hey, you know what? I don't blame you for being curious, right? We all want to know what Granddad and Great-Granddad did back in the day. That's just a natural fact of being us. So we're going to try and give you some of those answers that you so desperately want to understand for what was it like living back then in the 1940s, more specific, during the World War. I'm going to be real honest, guys. I don't know why we even bothered to do this to ourselves, you know? Like, you know, it's educational and all that, but, you know we're gonna suffer. We'll see you then. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to the Eager Beaver Experimental Labs - Legal Counseling Facilities. We're very happy to have you here with us today, and as you can see from our prompt and my current dress, we're delving back into the Second World War. Now, again, what we're trying to recreate is the year of 1944 for the United States military in the European theater. That being said, for a lot of the equipment that we're going to be taking hiking and camping with us and testing it for 48 hours to really live in this experience, we do have to admit that some of it is going to be anachronistic, or more specific meaning out of time and place. We've done the very best that we can to put together a realistic outfit, but we are on a budget, and again, some of this is borrowed, some of this is bought, and some of this we have from our own collections. We really hope to give you the most realistic aspects that we can, but we also admit where we fall short. So now, let's start off with the M1928 bag, and we'll break it down from there. Let's get started. Here on the examination table is the M1928 Haversack - Webgear system. And the first thing you're going to say is probably, oh dear God, that is overpacked. And you're quite right. But let me explain exactly why it's this way. And what we have here is a ridiculously beefed up M1928 Haversack and backpacking - Webgear system. So the first item that you're probably going to be asking is this properly packed? No. No, it is not. Do not pack a bag like this. Now, the reasons that we have it packed like this is because we're bringing a large amount of supplies, and frankly, we are pushing the M1928 to its limits. There are certain methods available, such as the tailpiece, which can be added to this haversack. However, even then, for this trip and for our purposes, it wouldn't give us enough space. So, please, we beg your forgiveness that this is not properly packed, but again, we're putting as much in this as we can. We're trying to stay fully away from anything modern, and we're throwing in everything that I'm going to need to make it for 48 hours in the woods. Now, let's go over the full breakdown of this bag and talk on it just a little bit more in detail. So, opening this bad boy up here, what we first have right up front is an original M1949 sleeping bag. I'll open it up in a minute so you can actually properly see the tags, but this is a touch both realistic and anachronistic. Now, these bags would have seen their way in Korea definitely, but their innovation and creation did not really happen in World War II. We have the M1945 bag over this, which would have seen its way in design and use in 1945. However, the bag itself here is not of the time period. However, getting an original World War II sleeping roll or sleeping bag is very difficult, and for the ones that we see out there, they're in really rough condition. This bag is going to serve us very well because it's incredibly warm. It's incredibly protective. It is water repellent, but not waterproof. So you really need to keep it dry. But for how cold it's going to be for us, this is the best pick that we have available. And we're really fortunate to have this one within our own personal collection. So this is coming with us on the trip, and it's very similar to what they had in the 10th Mountain Division in World War II. However, it's not perfect. So again, we beg your forgiveness, but at the same time, This is an incredible bag, and we're so happy to be taking this with us because it is tried and true and saw almost 4 decades of service within the United States military. Here for your viewing pleasure are the 2 tags on this bag. The first one being here the M1945 Water Repellent Sleeping Bag Case. It is an original. Finishing the set here is the original M1949 sleeping bag. And this is perfect for our camping trip because it's the middle of winter and the nights are roughly 20 degrees. One final highlight here for the M1949 sleeping bag and system is the zipper right here. This is really an innovative piece because it is an internal handle for a zipper, which is perfect for mountaineering. Really a great innovation to show off. Now, here's what else we have in here. Opening it up, we have ourselves a raincoat. You're gonna have to give me a moment because I have to unfasten it now, so just wait. So here it is. Now again, this is both close to being real, but also a touch anachronistic. I'll open it up and wear it for you in a second, but this is specifically a British poncho. Now, for United States servicemen in World War II, especially when they were first coming over during the difficulties of the battle in the Atlantic, getting your hands on brand new US supplies was incredibly difficult. So, a surplus of World War I and World War II British-made rain jackets and ponchos were handed over to US servicemen for their own use and protection. However, the keen-eyed will notice here that there's one little piece off of this. It's almost exactly the right sizing, it's almost exactly the right material, it is almost perfect for the time period. But it's the wrong color. You see, in World War II and World War I, these would have been khaki, not this jungle green from the British. This was made in 1955. I'll show you the stamp in a minute. But it's extremely close to what we need for what's coming up in the weather, as well as for just keeping ourselves safe. It is almost a perfect representation of what they would have had, and it's an original, which makes the testing even better. Very little change in the material, or the make, or the design of these. However, it is the wrong color. So, work with us on that one a little bit. For this particular rain cape, it was made by Strauss & Sons. Further, it was produced in the year of 1955. Again, it's very similar to what they would have had in the First and Second World War, just with a difference in color. And here we have the rain cape on proper display. It's fairly useful, although it's lacking a hood. And last up here, we have our US GI tent. Now, this tent itself, the main body, is a reproduction, because we're not going to destroy something from World War II. However, we've done our best to collect some original items here, such as these almost perfectly preserved wooden stakes. I mean, these are incredible. So we're going to take care of them very, very well. This rope is just the rope I have on hand. The original one disintegrated a very long time ago. However, these poles for keeping it up range from 1956 all the way up into 1985, and I'll get a close-up on these in a minute so you can see. However, they still work, and the design almost didn't change at all from 1944 all the way up into, frankly, the 1980s, minus the fact that they get a full OD green paint job, and you'll notice that these aluminum and sometimes steel tips have either a clear coat or they're going to just be this standard OD green. Still, great to have them in this good of condition, and frankly, as long as it keeps me dry in the upcoming inclement weather, I'm gonna be pleased. Now, some of you might remember from our previous video that we had the ever-exciting 1942 launch kit. And again, this is fully original from the World War, and yours truly will be eating out of it. And again, we also have the full assortment of original 1942 utensils. Just put these out here for you to see. But we have something even better and more exciting for you coming right up. Because we have a reproduction K-Ration on hand. Now, yours truly was really hoping for a supper kit because the pork is delicious. Instead, I got my least favorite, which is breakfast, and it's going to be canned ham and eggs. So, I know all of you are incredibly excited to watch me eat this later. And hey, if I were you, I'd be excited too, but I'm me, so I'm not. And real quickly, here's the full rundown of the menu, including the beloved energy crackers, followed by delicious boiled ham and eggs in a can, instant coffee, a actually pretty tasty fruit bar, 4 cigarettes, a lump of sugar, and some chewing gum. What a healthy meal. I have this very important and life-changing addition to throw into this total kit. This is a P38 can opener, and frankly, without this, I'd be up the creek, because opening these cans would be very little fun. So, just want to add this little tidbit in there that this baby is my lifeblood. Thank you, P38. We're going to make this one fairly quick, but still, I'll go over it with you. This is an original M1928 Haversack and a fully original M1928 meat can-meat pouch. We're very happy to have this in the collection. Further, this belt down here is an original 1938 pistol belt. Very pleased to have that with us. We have an original canteen and an original canteen holder-case right here. Really lovely to have. To this side, we have a reproduction just because I need extra water. So it's fine, it's serviceable, and it gets us by. Now, the anachronistic or out-of-time touches that we have on this Webgear are as follows. My e-tool here, this actual shovel system, it is not the proper type. It is out of date, but we need something out there in the field, and this is as close as it gets to the original. This design is from the 1950s, so it's a bit out there, but still very close to what we need. Further, this casing right here, the actual shovel-spade cover, is nearly perfectly identical to what they had in the 1940s. However, this one saw service in Korea, not in World War II. The OD green would have been used later in the war, and the likelihood of us having that in our 1944 setting is fairly nigh. Still, very pleased to have this. Final note to make real quick. We have 2 of these medical pouches from the United States Army in World War II here. However, they're jungle green. They do not fit this setting that we're going for, but for the sake of packing modern medical supplies and having something on there that's original, we're very pleased to have these with us, and we're so grateful that these were handed over to us by some very generous donors. Thank you, and of course, to those folks, you know who you are. And here's another really cool original piece on our webbing. This here has been with my family since it was made, specifically in the year of 1943. This is a 1911 Colt magazine pouch, and thank you to our friend, subscriber, and commenter who tell us that we mislabeled this last time. Thank you for keeping us honest on that, and please forgive the slip up there. Again, this is such an amazing piece to have in the family. Very proud to take it in the field once more. Now, with all of that hard work out of the way, what do we do to have a little bit of fun in our downtime? Well, right here is the original copy from 1945 of Yank magazine. Now, this was the Army's weekly release magazine that was fully free for all GIs, usually, for them to read and enjoy in their own time. Now, for some of you, you'll say it's anachronistic because this one was released in December of 1945, meaning the war was already over. I'm going to be extremely honest with you. This was a gift from my dear friend Edom. I literally don't care. It's so awesome to take this in the field, keep it safe, but to take it out into the field and read this and have a bit of fun. It's an incredible piece of history, and we're going to take good care of it. And for those of you curious, don't worry. I'll get a few up-close shots for you in a second. And here's the front cover and the comics for Yank magazine, December 21st of 1945, and to be honest, you know right away, I went to the comics first and foremost. They're great. And here's an article discussing, was air power decisive? And the historical consensus is, yes. And also no. That's not confusing at all. Here's a nice slice of life article about GIs going pearl diving, which is a pretty interesting piece for the historical community, as well as just fun to see pictures of Granddad in. Here we have a cultural piece discussing the fact that Japanese geishas are not prostitutes. And although for us in the modern day that might seem obvious, back in 1945, most people couldn't tell the difference because of a lack of culture and education on the subject. And finally, closing out this magazine, we have the greatest juxtaposition you could possibly ask for. To the right, we have the Christmas of 1945 and 1944 short story and poem. This describes the horrors and desolation of the Battle of the Bulge in the Ardennes Offensive, which was one of the deadliest pushes in the European theater to occur. On the left panel is Martha Holiday, our pinup girl of the week. Two very different subjects indeed. But at least I now know what Grandpa was really thinking about while he was in the service. Now, let's transition over to what the pack finally looks like with all of these items packed in, and then we'll conclude with what I'm actually wearing. Now, this is what the pack looks like when we're fully wearing it, and again, it is not properly set up for how you'd be carrying it. We are absolutely pushing this unit to its limit. So, take some notes there. Further, the weight is not properly balanced. We don't have everything in perfect place, but we're doing the best that we can with what we have. I'm going to do a quick walk around so you can see just how heavily this is set up and frankly how ridiculous it is. But for the purpose of our test, should get the job done. Again, when it comes to historical accuracy, don't pack this bag like this. Further, if you really want a bag to carry this much equipment, which we're going nearly over 50 pounds with right now, pick a bigger bag or a more proper rucksack. We don't have the tail add-on for this either, but frankly, it wouldn't do us much good. There's a reason they have modern hiking bags, but we're pushing equipment from 1944 to its very limit, so please be mindful and remember that. Now, let's talk about the clothing that we're going to be wearing on this hike. Right here is my overall base layer, just being my HBT pants and my officer's service khaki shirt. Now, I'm going to kick into narration and I'm going to run you through the entirety of what we're wearing out here in order to stay comfortable. And keep in mind for this, we know on this trip already that there's a high chance of rain and or snow, and that the general average of the day is going to be about 32 to 35 degrees. So we're prepping for wet weather, and it's going to be cold. So let's get started. Let's take the opportunity here to discuss exactly what a GI would have been wearing for wet, cold, and rainy weather in 1944. Starting off our winter base layer here is the 5-button high-neck army sweater. And even better, it's 100% wool, guaranteed to keep you warm in cold weather. Next we have the HBT combat jacket, which doesn't do much except look very green. And it's very tastefully paired here with the HBT service cap. Because, you know, fashion! This here is the M41 field jacket, which just adds another layer of protection and warmth. And to finish off our 1944 cold, wet, and miserable look, put on a helmet, add a trench coat, and then throw on a hoodie under that. Perfect! Now, some of you might be there saying, wow, this guy looks absolutely ridiculous. And you know what? I feel ridiculous. But what we're also presenting here is fairly historically accurate. During the offensive of the Ardennes in 1944 and 1945, when US GIs were experiencing the absolute coldest winter of that decade, well, they didn't have a lot of warm weather gear on them. So they went about layering just about every piece of equipment that they possibly could. Now, for our needs in the field, we probably won't have to layer up this much, but at the same time, we're going to have it on hand. And frankly, we're fortunate that we do have it, because whether it rains or snows, we have a plethora of supplies to keep us together. And these are great examples of what the American GI had during World War II. Now, with all of that said, we're quite nearly ready to go out and present some of this and show you exactly what it's like. So we're prepared for the challenge now, and again, for 48 hours, I'll be living their lifestyle to the best of our ability and trying to better represent what it meant to be a GI in 1944. But this wouldn't be a proper 48-hour challenge without a little bit of competition now, would it be? Before you here is someone that women love and men both fear and envy. That's right, it's the only Cont, Destroyer of Worlds. Now, ladies and gentlemen, In order to make this a spirited and proper competition, in order to test the World War II gear against the modern day and age, let me invite out my competition, my friend, and my fellow Eager Beaver crewmate, Tauntaun.
You really want to go for round 2 even though I won the last one?
You cheated, and we all know that.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, you cheated.
I think we all know the true winner who's going to win this weekend. I mean,
yeah, me.
I'll stay high and dry, and you'll be laying in the dirt or mud.
Yeah, we're gonna put that to a test. I have a feeling Granddad's equipment can definitely hold up.
Test doesn't really matter. I just know it's gonna happen.
You just know. You just know.
I just know.
Okay.
I'm a fortune teller.
Okay, yeah. Well, mine survived 2 world wars and is fully prepped to kick you square.
Yeah, it might have survived, but it may have not have performed as well as, even if, my tent can literally survive a tornado.
Yeah, what's the name of the tent?
The Eureka is made by Albert Einstein.
You see how much this guy lies? That's how you know he cheated in the last one.
I did not cheat.
He cheated. Oh, you know what? Let's stop here, because we're going to fight all day. We'll shake on it. This will be a friendly 48-hour competition comparing the history of the World War to the modern day and age. Are you ready, buddy?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you there. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, at our campsite here in Walhalla. We are fully prepared to test now the sleeping kit of 1944 in this M1928 Haversack system in Webgear to a modern REI sleeping pad system. So this is going to be a very interesting bit. He's going to help me get set up first, and Blake is going to be our timekeeper to show you how long it takes us to properly set up a pup tent, and then I'll help him out, and he's going to show us how quickly you can set up a modern tenting system. Though to be fair, I think mine is infinitely cooler. Let's get started.
Hey, I'm Blake. I'm part of the Eager Beaver staff, and what I'm doing this weekend is I'm vet on staff, so 68 whiskey, and I'm being a referee, so I just want to make sure that Anthony is being accurate, staying on task, not cheating or anything like that. So we'll see how it goes this weekend.
And with referee Blake watching over us, we now make our way into the very first test of the day. It's the tent setup challenge. Let's see which system actually is the best of the best. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here is the near original World War II pup tent, which he and I now, Tauntaun and I, are going to set up together. So we got the timer right here. Let's get started now. Scary. Now we are going to speed up the film here for the sake of ease in viewership. However, remember, we have referee Blake keeping us honest here, and on his veteran's honor, he's going to keep us straight. The best way to get started in setting up this tent is by staking your corners, because you want to have tension in the tent itself. If you put the poles in first, it's just going to fall over and look kind of silly. See right there? A bit of tension. But we don't want to have it entirely put in place yet, because these kind of tenting systems require a sense of constant adjustment. You see right here that this sad and dilapidated shape is not the final form of this tent. And in fact, we're going to have to stretch it out ever so slightly more and more because, again, these tents require constant adjustment, so they don't just fall over instantly. Further, the reason that we have 2 men setting this tent up is because these pup tents were designed to be built and then shared by a team of 2 men. And it really does help to have the extra hand there to make sure that some tension stays in the line. So we pause for a second just to show you. We're nearly 9 minutes in on that because we keep making readjustments, and we're not done yet. Uncle Sam would be so disappointed. We noticed we were also short a few spikes. But we're going to keep going on this because we have to readjust, so bear with us. And here we go, putting more tension into the line so the tent actually stays up all night. Now we're going to use our E-tool to hammer everything into place. And our entrenching tool in this case is good for not only digging holes, but being a hammer. Further, just on occasion, it doubles as a weapon, a saw, and a bench seat. Don't ask how that last one works, but it does. Okay, so we're at 13 minutes and 32 seconds. That's obviously terrible, especially for a military time. On civilian time, I feel pretty great. But the Boy Scout in me, who didn't set this one up except for when I was 8 years old, does feel a touch disappointed. But you think after 13 minutes, yeah, camp is set up and done, am I right? No, you're wrong. Now we have to dig a moat to keep it dry. So let's do that part next, and I'll turn the timer back on.
Initially, some of you might not see the value in digging a moat around an encampment like this. However, remember that 1, the bottom of this tent is not sealed, and 2, there is no footprint. So for any moisture that comes down in the night, and we are going to get rain, it'll fall down the body of the canvas tent into the moat and then run off from there.
Okay, there we go. So let's see the final time. We were under 20 minutes. I consider that a personal best. That being said, no, that's actually a horrible time. That's terrible. You should really practice this, because for me, I haven't done this properly since I was probably 8 years old in Boy Scouts. I know I'm gonna get smoked in the upcoming competition with Tauntaun, but hey, long as we stay dry, I'm grateful. Now, did they use anything like a footprint to cover the bottom of their tent back in World War II? No, they didn't. But we're gonna use this rain cape just to keep it a little more dry. They did use this method in the war, however, it actually was far less common than you'd think. Come here, look at my very cozy living conditions. Can you see it? Isn't it nice? All right, now real quick, we're gonna show you how we install our sleeping systems. This is the M1929 sleeping bag right here. Watch me roll it in. Again, my foot pad dash sleeping pad here is my raincoat. Now we make space for the backpack here. And come take a look. This is my cozy sleeping abode for the next 48 hours. Isn't that swell?
And just look at how much less space that this takes up than like whatever hobo shelter that thing is over there. I mean,
That's insulting.
I can probably get this thing up in like 60 seconds.
Okay, well, we're gonna test that. We're gonna start the timer almost right now. We're gonna see how long it takes him. He has to beat 20 minutes. So good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
I already know the results.
I'll probably need it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
And just like our previous segment, we will be speeding this up so you don't have to watch the full assembly. But all of that noted, I can tell you right now, this one won't take much time at all to watch be completed, because here it is.
And we are done. 3 minutes and 48 seconds. What did you get, like 20 minutes? So
Okay, yeah.
I think I'm the obvious winner here. So
So multiply that by 5 and you get my time. Hands down, I give it to you much easier, much less sweat, already more waterproofed, and frankly, larger than mine.
After that very long and drawn-out sequence, hands down, the victory goes to Tauntaun. So he's awarded 1 point, having built his tent in less than 5 minutes and mine taking 20 minutes to complete. Ooh, that one really stings to lose. And with that horrible defeat on my mind, next came dinner time, so hopefully I could eat some of my emotional pain away. Just maybe.
So we're currently what? We are 4 hours into our 48-hour World War II packing challenge. And right now, Tauntaun is smoking me desperately.
yeah.
Yeah, he is. But that being said, we still have the first dinner to go through, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, we're going to enjoy this fire a little bit more, because everyone can enjoy a fire. Am I right?
Exactly.
That's what we're here for.
And we did take a moment to enjoy the fire before dinner.
So, okay, boys and girls, I get to cook first tonight, and my heating element is the classic Tommy cooker. So in this case, we'll just pop the tab, set this on fire, it cooks for 2.5 hours, and I get to boil my delicious meal. What is my delicious meal, though, you're probably asking? Let me show you right here. It's corned beef hash. Now, this here would not have come from the PX per se, nor would have been issued out, but dear old mommy can send this to you through the mail. And I'm quite grateful for that. This we'll be using to substitute our C, D, and K rations tonight. And as the instructions say, I just have to boil this delicious can for 10 minutes and I get a hot meal. Isn't that great? Thanks, Mom, for mailing this to me.
We add a little water to our mess tin. Then we throw it on top of the Tommy cooker to get nice and boiled. After which we carefully pry it out of the boiling water. And then we can serve.
So we've got the key. Now we just have to open the can. And it's cooled off enough that I can actually do this. I hope. Just take this key, put it on the line there. Now we start spinning it around and hoping for the best. There we go. Oh, look at that. There comes dinner. So good and so tasty. Oh yeah, look at that. I'm excited. Are you guys ready to see me eat this? All right, so here we go. Let's see what this sent from home ration tastes like. Oh, wow, that's actually really good. No, I know that this loaf of meat doesn't look appetizing, but it actually tastes great. I can see why they'd ask their mothers to send this over. This is not bad. Especially if we had some scrambled eggs or some beans, this would be delicious. So, I mean, for camping meal, 10 out of 10. I'd like to see Tauntaun beat me on the processed meat game.
And Tauntaun really did bring his best in the processed meat competition. In this case, it's the modern hot dog.
Dang, look at that. It's time to enjoy it. You know, it's good even though there's a little bit of some ash and grit. Yeah, tastes good.
And with the first meal completed, I award Tauntaun and myself both 1 point, because the nutritional value in either of these meals are equivalent, and frankly, they both taste great. Way to go on that one, gentlemen. With the fire now slowly dying, it became time for the two of us to return to our tents and now test out our sleeping systems this rainy night. And trust me, that rain was definitely coming. Before your eyes here is the Eureka Suma 1 and our 1941 Pup Tent, both going head-to-head for a night's sleep. Here is the romantic view from my own Pup Tent. Now let me give you my personal thoughts before fading to sleep here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is how I get to sleep tonight, and I'm sincerely hoping for the best. Wish me luck, good night, and good luck to you.
Just like clockwork, as soon as I put myself into my sleeping bag, the rain started. And at this point, I thought it was a good opportunity to just pass out. Let's now greet the morning world.
Good morning, YouTube. How are you today? I, for one, feel great. We'll do a quick review of the tent in a second, but I slept pretty well, actually. I'm not wet in the least bit. I also got to use my meat can as a pillow. Don't believe me? Take a look. This actually makes a pretty decent pillow in the middle of the night, so I can't be upset about that. I think my hair looks nice as well. So we'll be getting up here in a minute and we'll inspect all the damage of the morning. Just give me 5 more minutes.
The world outside my tent actually looked fairly nice, as the rain had stopped sometime around 7 o'clock in the morning, and naturally, I was ready to go and explore. From the outside, both of our tents look absolutely fine. However, how did they really do in the previous night's rainstorm? Let's find out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy to tell you that this tent did perfect last night. There was very little, if any, moisture that got in. I stayed dry the entire time. All of my equipment stayed dry. There really was no leaking. Further, this moat actually worked to irrigate the water and push it all downhill. I stayed comfortable, safe, and dry the whole time. And really, I mean, this over 100-year-old design did me just fine. It stayed up the whole time, so I'd call that an absolute win.
Well, this is obviously a great tent. I stayed perfectly dry, and there's no doubt in my mind that I would ever get wet inside there. I mean, honestly, it speaks for itself, really.
Now, let's hear from our veteran referee.
All right, so this is following up from last night. So last night was a pretty easy night. Now, about probably 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, we did have a decent amount of rainfall. I did check. Anthony stayed in his tent all last night. He did very well. He actually, inside of the tent, he stayed fairly dry. I believe maybe his feet got a little bit wet, but other than that, no issues with the tent. He did good, and he stayed in there all night long.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tauntaun and I have both agreed that because the tents were both durable and stayed waterproof the whole time, that we both award ourselves a point in this part of the challenge. So congratulations, buddy. Good to meet you halfway there. Very pleased with this performance. Now let's move on and see how else we can test these 2 different kits together.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. For the tent durability test, we both get 1 point each. Fantastic work on both parts of the team there. At only a 1-point difference, such a scoring now reinvigorated the challenge, and it's at this point that we compare the K-Ration to the modern-day instant breakfast meal. Let's see how they go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's nearly breakfast time, and we're about to start by cooking up our K-Rations, but first you're probably asking, how did GIs make their food in the field? How did they actually heat it up? Well, if you're very fortunate, you had something like a burning tablet or an Aladdin's lamp. But in our case, we have the British-issued Tommy cooker here by Blackie brand. This is pretty easy. It's just full of burning fluid inside. You'll just pop the tab, set it on fire, and it should cook for roughly 2 to 2.5 hours. And that's how you have a mobile warm meal in the field. Keep in mind, in order to have this luxury, you generally had to be fairly fortuitous, but I'm not getting shot at today, so I get to have a warm meal, and I'm happy about that. Let me show you how it's done, and let me show you what's in the K-Ration now. Here we have a reproduction K-Ration that I'm going to eat for your viewing pleasure. Now, it's my least favorite meal, breakfast, and in this case we have energy crackers and a can of boiled eggs and ham. That being said, I still look forward to it. It's going to be fun to try out. And I'm going to open this box up here in a second to show you everything that's in there. But first, let me show you what the original field packaging actually looked like. Does that not spell appetizing?
Before you here are the full contents of a breakfast K-Ration from World War II, including canned eggs and ham, sugar cubes, some chewing gum, soluble coffee product, a fruit bar, 4 Chesterfield cigarettes, and hardtack. Let's start off our culinary adventure by exploring the intricacies of canned ham and eggs.
So boys and girls, it looks like the water's nearly ready to boil. So now we get to stick this in for 5 to 10 minutes and hope it warms up in time. I look forward to this fresh, mother-made form of ham and eggs. So we're quite ready to take this one out now. So let's reach in. Fairly spicy can. And hopefully we have a semi-warm meal here. Now, the only way to open this one is with our good old reliable P38. Now, some of you are going to ask, why are we opening it from the bottom side here? Well, because there's a touch of anachronistic piece here. Most guys at the time didn't have a pull tab available to eat from. Although it was an innovation that would come about, this is actually a modern can dressed up to look old-fashioned. And we want to make sure that we show the fact that we have to use a P38 in the field. So you get to watch me very awkwardly open this. So I hope you enjoy it. But again, for anyone who's wondering why we're opening it from the wrong side of the can, it's because we don't want to cheat the system. So we just make it harder on ourselves to show what it was like. Let me get started. Ah, there's our delicious breakfast. Aren't you excited? I know. Deep down inside, I'm certainly excited to eat this.
And as sarcastic as my excitement might be, this dog is absolutely crazy for what I have. He'll get some later.
This is what we get to eat out of the can. And as you can see, the dogs are excited to be here with us and eat in a minute. So if they want to eat it, that means I want to eat it too. I'll take our first bite and tell you how it is. It's just heavily processed ham and a touch of egg in it. It's a very soupy meat, but it's honestly not bad. This is pretty luxurious compared to other items we have. Now we get to feed the dogs too.
And here's living proof that dogs indeed love military K-Rations, and if they can eat it, by God, we can too. Now, let's go ahead and give these energy crackers and or hardtack a try, and I'll tell you all about its delicious flavor.
Now, this isn't always the most appetizing to eat by itself, so that's why we use this delicious energy cracker here to make it a touch more palatable. Just scoop it up like so. Honestly, that's a huge improvement right there. See, hardtack kind of sucks by itself, but this little biscuit and this together, I argue that's a winning combo. Now, the water we have here, we cannot waste because it has to be rationed. So now we get to add in our delicious coffee here, which is instant and frankly, something worth fighting and dying over. Oh no. We gotta get real with this one. There we go. Probably gonna be a little watered down, but hey, that's all good. Let that get good and warm, and that'll nearly round out our breakfast here. Ooh, that tastes good already.
I'm even going to make this cup of coffee extremely extravagant by adding one whole Jack Frost sugar cube to this delicious beverage. And of course, we utilize the M1 Garand bayonet for better seasoning. Delicious.
So let's tell you now about this instant coffee, or as it used to be called, water-soluble coffee product. Have a sip of this delicious juice here, which of course we added one sugar cube to because we're fancy and civilized, even in the field. Okay, that's very hot, but I'll be honest, it's a good product. It tastes just fine. Didn't really need the sugar, but I'm happy to have it. And most of all, it's going to keep me warm, and it's a little taste of home right there. It also kind of washes down the extremely salty flavor of canned meat byproduct. So I'm happy. Honestly, this is my favorite bit of the day. But don't worry, we still have dessert to make, so just stay in there with us. So now, my friends, it's time for dessert. This is a fruit bar, and frankly, it looks a lot better than what they had in 1942. Now, this one could be eaten whole. However, there is a very fun method in which you can boil it down in just about 4 to 3 tablespoons of water and turn it into a preserved jam. Then you can spread it on a biscuit, which is what we're gonna do right now. So, follow me along. Open up your water can ration, take out your big tablespoon, and we're just gonna put in 3 whole droppings there. Look at it go. Hot enough to go. Let that come up to a boil now, and in a minute, we're gonna drop in our fruit bar, and then we're gonna make some jam.
Once the water starts to steam and boil, we drop our ugly fruit bar into the water, and slowly we watch it disintegrate, rather just like my love life and social circle. And soon enough, it's rendered down into an almost edible and delicious homemade army jelly.
And here we go. We have our GI preserves and jelly all mixed up, which is only better because we have this hardtack energy cracker to go with it. Let me tell you how it tastes. Honestly, I can tell you now, it smells good. Probably is good. Yeah, that's a mass improvement over just the regular fruit bar any day. And again, most GIs would try to do this if they could, because the fruit bars that they got essentially look like white death, and they had no moisture whatsoever. This one here is a far better example of modern day cooking and is more luxurious than what they had. So if you think this is rough or bad, you don't know how bad it was back then, 80 plus years ago. I consider myself quite fortunate because this, in my book, is a very luxurious meal. And it's got dessert. I'm happy.
Now, after such a filling meal, it's important to keep our dental hygiene in mind. So let's enjoy a little bit of leaf mint chewing gum here.
And finally, to freshen up, I have my delicious leaf mint chewing gum here, which is quite nice. We've had a very luxurious morning, I can tell you right now. Not bad at all. Now, when it came to GIs and what they actually had in the field, although you're supposed to have a 24-hour meal per day, I can assure you that they generally had to space these meals out and did not get to eat all of it at once like I did. So again, being here in the rear echelon, I'm extremely fortuitous today. Most guys, if they were lucky, got to space it out over time. So, we're very pleased that we can share this with you, but also incredibly fortuitous that we're not getting shot at right now. And two, the fact that I got to eat the entirety of my K-ration, which was very good.
Standing opposite me in competition, Tauntaun got to enjoy a delicious meal of biscuits and gravy, which he knows is my favorite breakfast.
Now it's time to try the biscuits and gravy. Dang, doesn't that look good? Yeah, it's good. It's probably a little warmer than those chopped eggs and ham that Anthony has over there.
Before we go into our final grading on Meal 2, let's see what the referee has to say about today's competition piece.
All right, so I'm going to follow up now, talk about some of the rations that he was eating. Now, you saw what myself, Tauntaun, Adam, what we were all eating. We had a great breakfast. We had a good dinner last night, and Anthony stuck to his rations. He ate everything. He said he was full. He did not ask for any of our food. We didn't offer him anything, and he did well. I'm surprised. But apparently the roast beef, the potted meat, and the eggs and the ham and everything, I guess he likes it.
Now, going in and reviewing Meal 2, we both agree again that Tauntaun and I shall both get a point because they're both edible meals, they're fairly readily made, and they give you most all the nutrition you need for the day. World War II is surprisingly holding up fairly well to the modern day thus far. Now, enough about food. It's time to take our challenge once more back into the woods. So, let's see if World War II can still hold up to the modern day moving forward. Here we have the Seneca Adventure Trail of Seneca, South Carolina, for our very next test.
So Tauntaun and I are out here at the Seneca Adventure Trail today. We're going to be doing roughly 2.5 miles. You saw our comparison from last time, and yes, he beat us in totality. But today's is a much lighter pack at only 25 pounds, and we're going to compare what they had in 1944 to what they have in the modern day and age for just a light hike. Again, we're both at 25 pounds. This is a full setup from 44, as many of you already know. This is the modern one. And we're going to see how tough they are and how well they hold up, and if they can both function properly in the modern day and age. Good luck.
Out of the gate begins our light hiking challenge, which will be interesting to compare for the both of us. The environment out here is fairly simple, with undulating red clay hills and plenty of pine surrounding us, which should work in favor of either man's gear set. And all of that undulating red clay rather brings up our first major point of the day.
So Tauntaun and I have come up here on this beautiful rock because we believe it's a good time to talk about shoes again. Now, for those of you who saw our previous video, you probably already know these complaints, but I'm still gonna bring them up. Now, this environment here is a lot easier to walk in and frankly more for what these boots are made for, but at the same time, these are still Type 2 United States russet brown service boots, styled after what they had in 1942. They're cobbled and then machine stitched, which is nice if you want to replace the sole. However, they have very poor grip, so they're always a touch slippy. Something like what Tauntaun has really does have me beat in the world of hiking.
So these shoes are prime shoe wear for this type of environment out here. As you can see, the ground is quite muddy, based off all the mud caked on my boots and on my hands actually. So I'll probably beat him out on this trail as well. He'll be slipping all over while I'll be nice and grippy.
You know, you didn't have to put it like that. I'm literally right here.
I mean, it's just the truth. Yeah. The truth hurts. I know.
Although Tauntaun makes a valid point, these service boots are performing admirably and doing what they're supposed to do, so don't discredit them. And with all of that said, the group continue on our way here, continuing to push our equipment to see how well it does on this light hike for the day.
So this is a fairly easy and relaxing trail. It's not nearly as arduous as it was at Paris Mountain. At the same time, it's still a great place to come out and test some of this equipment, even in a lighter setup. Frankly, I feel like right now, this gear is actually perfect out here. Of course, we know it's antiquated, but it's getting the job done, and that's the main thing. Tauntaun, you feel the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, my bag holds water, holds snacks. What more could you ask for?
See? They're both the same.
And after 2.5 miles, our little light hike was essentially done. So let's go talk to the ref and conclude our own thoughts on how well the equipment actually held up.
We have just completed the 2.5 miles out here at the Seneca Adventure Trail. It's really not that trying, but it's a good light mover. It's fairly accessible to everyone. Further, it gives us an opportunity to retest our equipment in a more standard field practice. Again, Tauntaun and I both carried 25 pounds on us, roughly, and I've stayed as original as I can to a kit from 1944. In turn, Tauntaun is fully pimped out in the modern day and age, and frankly, I don't feel that I've lost in any way. I feel pretty good about this. This has been a comfortable one for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty normal. It's like just a walk in the park, literally. But yeah, I had no struggles. My shoes still held up fine in the mud. You know, light clothing and a day pack. And yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, I concur here. Same thing, just 80 years older, but this was a pretty good get up for what it was, and being out here, I'm quite happy. So we can't really decide who a winner is or if we should call a tie, so we're going to leave it up to our veteran on staff and medical expert, Mr. Blake. Blake, please let us know who gets the point here.
After watching Anthony and Tauntaun hiking through this park, I'm going to have to give it to both of them. Both of them did well. Both of the boots did fairly well, with Anthony slipping just a slight bit more, but still able to keep it under control. So I don't see any difference right now.
And taking the referee's call, both Tauntaun and I receive a point for the light hike, because both kits carried out the prescribed duty and were fairly comfortable to utilize. Now, let's see how else we can compete between the World War and the modern day. Upon arriving to camp, we decided it was time for our next challenge. Who could relax better? Because there's nothing more relaxing than testing how much better you relax than the other guy. Am I right?
So now, what did your average GI do for fun when he was out in the field? Or better yet, when he finally got to be relieved and go behind the front lines? Well, for starters, magazines like Yank were handed out both at the PX and just during mail delivery. These could be paid for or given out for free, depending on how cool your friends were. But these were sent out to GIs to keep them entertained and informed, so if you had a little time for reading, you could enjoy this. Most of these that actually existed that went to the front lines disappeared for several reasons, including fire kindling and, on occasion, a little bit of bog wipe, if you know what I mean. But we didn't just get a read. We have something kind of fun on occasion here that you gotta keep a secret. Come here, come here. Make sure no one's looking now, okay? This is special. You see, every GI always had a little something special from home here. And other than a good Chesterfield break, where I have to warn you now, for those not of age, don't smoke, it's not cool. But they did, back in the day. We have something fun here in this box, which are just a few nice knickknacks from home. Try to keep them safe. Here's one of my personal favorites. Delicious Charms. Not a bad snack to have in the field, along with blackjack chewing gum and other delicious candies that could be sent from home or bought at the PX. GI's got to enjoy these in the field. And just like that, I'm going to remember what citrus tastes like just right now. Not so bad. Take a smoke break, have a little bit of candy, roll up and read a book. That's about as fun as it gets out here. Now let's go compare it to the modern day and age.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear you there. I was just listening to some music and, watching some YouTube and eating my bag of chips in my tent. When it comes to the modern day, you basically have as much as you want on your phone at all times. You can listen to music, watch videos, even read the Yank magazine online without having to own the magazine. The possibilities are endless, and I think I've truly won this. But I guess entertainment is subjective after all, so maybe he's having a blast over next door,
Again, it's a fair tie with a point to Tauntaun and a point to myself, because relaxation really is subjective. That being said, I wouldn't mind having access to Netflix right now, so let's go on to our final review. With nighttime setting in, we had nearly reached a limit of our 48-hour challenge. So, with the sky darkening and guess what, more rain coming, it was at this point that the entire team decided it was best to go and hit the sack. And just like clockwork, the rain hit us again by 10 o'clock, but fortunately, I got to stay safe and dry in my pup tent. At 33 degrees and raining, I was quite happy to be fully enveloped in my M1929 sleeping bag, staying safe, warm, and dry. And by the morning hour, our 48-hour challenge had officially come to an end. Now let's quickly go over the scoreboard to see who the official winner is, and then discuss our final thoughts on what it's like to utilize equipment from World War II to camp in. Both tents having survived the tent durability for a second night, both receive points again. However, with this being the final test, Tauntaun here is the clear winner, having scored a total of 7 points with World War II behind just at 1 point. It was a very close competition this time, however, the modern day and age beats it out ever so slightly.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have just now officially come to the very end of our 48-hour challenge to compare what it was like to live in camp in equipment from 1944, specifically the United States Army of that time in the European theater, to what we have in the modern day and age. And unlike last week's competition for hiking, this one actually got extremely close. However, I do have to give the win here to our good friend Tauntaun. Congratulations, Tauntaun, on winning again, this time by just 1 point. But still, been an incredible friend here. He has a love for history just like me, and I'm really happy that he was here to help and assist in this. Thank you to our good friend Blake as well, who's a 68 Whiskey, veteran of the United States military. He has been here the whole time making sure that I stayed historically accurate and that the two of us played very friendly together, so thank you to him. Now, give me a second here, and I'm going to talk about some of the shortcomings of the old-fashioned kit, but also some of the places where it really shined and, frankly, surprised both of us, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to that now. I really have to say again how much fun this challenge was, but also, frankly, how surprised I was at how well this tent and its system did. Obviously, something like a modern tenting system is going to be far superior to this. Over the course of 100 years, synthetics have come a long, long way. And there are certain shortcomings to this tent, including the fact that it's a two-man system. It weighs roughly anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds when you pack it in. It does not pack ultralight or small, and it doesn't come with a footprint whatsoever. You just have to make do. All of that said, though, I'm so impressed that it held up not in just one, but 2 rainstorms, and that the design, frankly, is quite universally accepted. There's a lot of history to this, and I'm just so impressed with how well it did. It really is a great design for the times, and it put up a hell of a good fight. Myself and the team have been out here, and we've done the very best that we can to try and encapsulate a bit of what life was like for servicemen behind the lines in 1944. Now again, I fully admit that this get-up here is not entirely perfect. We're working with a mix of items that we own, that we borrow, and that we purchased brand new. Though this full bag here and all equipment in it is entirely original. That being said, we can't bring you the entirety of authenticity as hard as we try because 1, we're on a budget, and 2, it's just hard to get our hands on that equipment. All of that said, this has been a really humbling experience for me because for 48 hours, I got to live some of that life. And it helps me better understand what it was like for my uncles Mike, Bob, Rick, and Dan, Uncle Gene and Dean, to all of them there who have now since passed on. What they taught me in their childhood, or my childhood, excuse me, has given me the opportunity to learn a bit more and try that now as a grown man and see what they went through in their own youth and time. And again, for that, I considered it extremely humbling. Further, as you can tell, I haven't changed out of these for 48 hours, and I'm fortunate because for them, they didn't get to change out of it for roughly a month. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, the challenge is now done. We are fully packed up. I've completed my 48 hours. But if you've enjoyed this historical and outdoorsy content, please like and subscribe below. Further, if there are other things that you might like to see in the near future, please leave a comment and let us know. We're happy to pursue certain ends. We have many more historical videos and outdoors videos coming up very soon, and we thank you again for your time. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Eager Beaver signing off.